and welcome back to Haley's Daily. For our next session, we have a few special guests here from Ireland. Let's welcome Destiny, Megan, and Amber, experts in Irish culture. Thank you for being here today, ladies.
Thank you.
So, Ireland has a lot of dialects within their language. Would you shed some light on some of those?
Yes, the Irish language is made up of a whole bunch of different dialects. A lot of them are Scottish dialects, actually.
That's interesting.
Yes. So the Irish language evolved from the Celtics. It was brought over to the country of Ireland by the Celtics. But unfortunately, the language is kind of dying out a little bit in Ireland.
That's a shame.
But there are two other languages that kind of keep the tradition alive, keep the culture alive, and one of those is called the Shelton language. It's also referred to as the cant.
What is that?
Because a lot of people can't speak it.
Interesting.
It's actually from old Irish travelers that used to speak this language, and it's only spoken between them. There's only about 6,000 of them left who actually speak this language.
So it makes it really unique.
Yes, exactly. And then there's also another language called the Ulster language. This is unique to their culture because it's only spoken in a certain part of Ireland. It's called the Ulster part.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just another form of dialect from that Scottish region.
Oh, that's interesting. So in general, how many people still speak Irish in Ireland?
Unfortunately, only about 10% of the population is fluent in the Irish-speaking language, and only about 35% use it from day to day. So it's actually a language that's dying out of their culture.
So is American language taking over?
English is the most common spoken language in Ireland. However, there are certain words, certain phrases, certain dialects that are still used every day.
That's super interesting. All right, moving on, specifically to the Irish culture. Amber, as a pub owner, do you experience any unique language to pub culture?
Well, I mean, being in a pub most of your time, you kind of experience just as much of the language inside of a pub as outside of a pub. So it doesn't really necessarily differ, but you do hear, some interesting ways of saying things, especially, learning English and having English as your, the language you speak majority of the time. You think about some of these terms, and you hear stories, and you have to redirect yourself on that language. And it's funny because I hear stories all the time about people being ossified all the time.
What's ossified?
He's being drunk.
Interesting.
The Irish way of saying you're drunk.
So it obviously leads to a lot of interesting stories.
Oh, of course. And it's great to overhear them, to be honest. I enjoy them.
Very nice. So in general, what is the purpose of a pub?
Well, the pubs were originally established as a social ground. It's a social place where your neighbors, your family, your friends come in with each other, leisure time, and basically just have a drink and share stories, have fun. It's just a very relaxing environment to be in for them.
That's really cool and unique to their culture. I didn't know that about that. Now moving on to Megan, being a granddaughter of Austin Clark. How has this impacted your life?
Yeah, it's impacted my life a lot, him being a very famous author and poet. He passed down onto my father and my grandpa a lot of, sayings and a lot of proverbs that he would, teach everybody, that greatness knows gentleness, in order to be really great, you have to be gentle with the things that you are doing in life, that your character is better than the wealth and the money that you have. It's better to be a better person in life instead of, making all that money. It's better to be a good person on the inside. And the last thing that he would really teach me is that a man may live after losing his life, but not after losing his honor. And I think that really goes to the Irish heritage, about being true to yourself and true to your family and gentle to everybody and, just living life as it is and, enjoying family in your language, even if you have different dialects, just coming together and being one part of a group and part of one culture.
That's really interesting. It sounds like character and honor are really important to the Irish culture, and making sure that like family and interacting in that way is super important.
Most definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I wanted to add onto your,
Mhm.
onto your stories. It's great because our language really helps influence our culture. It's very, it gives us a sense of individual pride, and it also gives us cultural pride as people. And so it's really great, as sad as it is to know that some of the language is gone. It's still going to be a part of us, and it's still going to be a part of our ancestors. Like, we refer, culture as to what is grown and then what is grouped, and so
That's a good way to put it.
it's going to be a part of us no matter what.
Yeah. So in a way, it like separates you guys from other cultures because of the way you guys communicate. It's awesome.
I think that language also in itself symbolizes your cultural reality. The way you speak with other people in your culture and other cultures really speaks to your foundations as a person from the culture that you are from.
That's a really good way to put it, guys. I thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
After the short break, we'll teach you how to get an A on Danaher's communications class. From Ireland. They're laughing and ruining my perfect